Are we now recording?
Hmm?
Okay, we are. So, what I really want to thank each one of you for being here today at our first Zoom storytelling of the Lode Storytelling Guild. We have been in this virtual world for over a year now, and this is the first time that we've transitioned what used to be a monthly event into an online event. Our storytelling guild began 11 years ago with Colleen and BZ coming up with the idea to get together a group of storytellers here in our community of Tuolumne County and Calaveras County. And we, oh, no picture of Dana, Kathy says. Let me try to fix that.
Yay!
So
Yes.
Our storytelling guild began about 10 years ago. In the last couple of years, we've made some changes. We wrote a new mission statement. We have had an elections, and Colleen and I are currently the co-chairs of the Storytelling Guild. During the pandemic time, we started doing some online storytelling. We did a retrospective of one of our annual events, which is the Story Slam. And we're now doing these online events. So please check out our Facebook. Let us know if you would like to join our listserv. We have a new website that's being developed. New content is being put up on there. And I want to make a couple of tech announcements. We're going to, I think, mute everybody. And please unmute yourself when it's your turn to tell a story. Please be flexible with us because this is our first time doing storytelling like this. So we may have some technical issues. There's two of me right now. I know that. I have you on my phone and my computer because I wasn't sure if one of them was freezing. So I'll fix that while we hear from our first storyteller. This month we have no theme. So stories are going to be on whatever topic that you would like. In the future, we may have a theme. We're planning to have another online story on the first Saturday of June. That will again be a 2:15 log on, story time from 2:30 to 3:30. If you have questions, please ask. Colleen will be helping us with tech support. The max on the storytelling is 8 minutes per story, please. And I think that I'm going to ask Kathy to go first if you'd like to tell your story. Kathy Martinez is a fantastic storyteller who's been telling stories in our community and in areas around California for quite some time. She is involved, including other things, with a storytelling that goes all day long. What's that called, Kathy?
Epic Story Day.
Story Day, where each person learns a little piece of some kind of epic story and then comes and tells that story in community so that the story is told through different voices of different professional storytellers. So Kathy, I love knowing you in our storytelling community, and I'm pleased to present you as our first storyteller today.
Thank you. I'd like to tell a personal story. This is the first story I was told at a Story Slam. And BZ reminded me of it. Now, I don't know. Okay. I only see myself in the little mirror window. I don't see myself on the big screen. Does that mean anything? Oh, there I am. Okay. All right. My story is called Apricots. When I was 12, 13, and 14 years old, my mother thought it'd be a wonderful idea to take, for the kids to make money for school clothes. And so since my cousins in Fremont have been cutting apricots for years, and we lived in Hayward, we decided to join them for one summer and cut apricots. And we had to get up at the crack of dawn. This is in June. School's out. Getting up at the crack of dawn in summer vacation was not a good idea to us, but my mother insisted on it. Well, my mom was not what you would call a loving person to us. She never hugged us. She never said she loved us. She never touched us in any affectionate way. She never held our hand. She was just not affectionate at all. And I think because uh, she was pulled from her family when she was 6 years old, we put into an orphanage, Stewart, Nevada. A lot of Native people or children are pulled from their families and put into Stewart. So was raised with absolutely no affection, and so she never gave affection. So we were raised like that. We knew if we ever got sick, we were on our own. And even though we were crying, Mom, please help us, she would say, I can't help you. You do yourself. When I was a child, I had polio. And so I'd fall all the time. I mean, I tripped my knees. At one point, I counted my scars. I had 27 scars on my knees from falling. But my mother never put Band-Aid on it. She never nursed me at all. My brother ended up doing it for me and put the mercurochrome, the iodine on. It was just really a wonderful thing. Anyway, so my mom decided to take us apricot cutting. And what that means is we go to Fremont in this old barn, and there'd be sawhorses there with planks on them. And there weren't just planks, there were trays. And there was 6 feet long, 3 feet wide. And then what you do is you take your apricot with this knife was unreal. It was a curved knife. And you would stab the apricot and you not stab the apricot and slit around the apricot, and you twist it, and you would take out the pit, put the pit in the pan that happened to be there on the table, and take the two halves and you put them until you make rows and rows and rows and rows and rows. So you would go up to as high as your arm could reach, and the person on the other side would fill up. And so there were kids on both sides at the table. Well, my sisters and I had 3 sisters and a brother would be there, and my cousins. And the thing was, all the other people were there with their families cutting apricots, and they'd be laughing and they'd be having fun. But my mother would say, don't talk, get to work, cut apricots, hurry up, cut apricots. And so by the end of the summer, I got to be pretty good. I slid it and turned it and slid it. Well, it also got to be good that I can tell when an apricot is overripe. So I cut it very gently, because juice would spurt out everywhere and get all over your hands, as opposed to a green apricot, which you had to stab real hard and then slice, twist it, and you can get the pit out. This one day I had this apricot, and it was really mushy, and I knew it's going to be juicy, so I carefully cut it, twisted it, and juice all over my hands. And I put it in, took out the pit, and I put it down. And laid down the apricots. Now, right across from me was my mom, and I don't remember who was next to me, or my sisters were. But as we cut apricots, the trays got higher and higher and higher, and we had to stand on crates to help reach. Since I'm small anyway, I had to stand on a box pretty early. So they would stack trays. I think we had like 6 trays already stacked, and so I'm kind of awkwardly trying to cut the apricots and stand on the box. And this juicy apricot, I just finished slicing. Well, then I picked up another apricot, and it was green. And I said, oh boy, I could feel my hand slipping, my thumb slipping on the apricot, because the apricot's juice is slippery. But there was a green apricot, and I knew I had to stab it really hard. So I stabbed it and I slit it. But my hand slipped, and the knife slit this part of my thumb. And you know how the brief moment when you think, oh, I'm not hurt, everything's okay. Well, that millisecond of a time, I'm looking at it and I went, oh, I'm fine. And then the blood started coming out, and I went, oh, and I grabbed it, And I looked at it, I looked at my mom, and she said words that I'll never forget. She said, "Don't bleed on the apricots." And I grabbed my thumb, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, the blood was coming out, and I took it away from the tray, and and I didn't know what to do. And my mom said, "Go wash it off." I said, "Oh, where do I wash it off?" So I jumped off the box, and I walked around, and I noticed there was a hose that we got water. You know, if you were thirsty, we drink out of the hose. So I went to the hose, and I was trying to not hold my hand and turn the spigot on so I can start the water. And all of a sudden, this lady came around, and she turned on the water, and she took my hand, and I'm crying, and because I felt frustrated, it was painful, but I'm scared, you know. And she turned on the water, and she took my hand, and she washed it, and she pushed down on it really hard, and she stopped the blood. And she was so gentle with me, and she stopped the blood, and she pushed back my hair, and she dried my tears, and she just kind of put her hand on my shoulder and gave me a little hug, and she put a band-aid on it, and then she went away. And I was I I stopped crying, and I don't know where she went. I couldn't recognize her if she fell down in front of me. But I walked back to my box, and I started climbing on top of my box, and I looked at my mother, and I thought, man, my mom would make a lousy nurse. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. That's such a funny story. That's such a funny story. It's so timely with the fruit, with the season that we're in, with all the produce coming out. And it reminds me of a couple of years ago, I went to Yosemite for New Year's Eve. And the next morning, we spent the night there. And the next morning, I went with my friend for just a little walk. It turned out to be super snowy there, and she goes, "Be careful, it's icy, it's snowy." And I said, "I'm fine. I've got my hiking boots. I'm fine. These boots will keep me safe." And that very first step onto the icy snow, I fell right down on my back. And these like foreign, I don't know, German, European hikers look down and they go, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And I slowly got up, and my friend took me back to the car, and she got out the first aid kit, and I'm sort of sitting on the back of the trunk with my hand all scraped up, just same place as you, Kathy, all scraped up right there on my hand. And the cars are going by, and I'm like, Happy New Year to me. And the cars are going by, and this one car slowly comes up, and the window slowly rolls down, and it's those guys, and an arm comes out full of band-aids. I wouldn't recognize them again, absolutely not, but it made me feel so much better. You know, it's nice to know there's people out there. Beezy, how do you feel about telling next? You're off camera right now. Do you want to come back?
There, let's see. There's my voice. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you.
And there I am. Hello.
I can see you now. I'm going to put you on spotlight. Beezy is one of the founding members of our Storytelling Guild and longtime president of the Mother Lode Storytelling Guild. Beezy is a treasured storyteller, both in our community, regionally, and beyond, having received multiple awards, including recently by as the gem of California. What was that?
Regional gem from the Storytelling Association of California in 2018, I believe. Yes.
And we certainly appreciate you as a gem in our community as well. So
Thank
thank you for being here. Thank you for telling stories. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm just going to have to wrap my mind around this. So have any of you ever been to Yosemite and stood at the base of Yosemite Falls, and you just sit there and you feel the mist just spraying all over your face? And if you stay there long enough, it's the right time of day, you'll see all these beautiful rainbows arching across the base of the waterfall. It is just one of the most magical places, certainly in California, and I think perhaps in the world. That's why so many people travel from all over the world to visit our beautiful national park here in our own community. So I wanted to share with you a story from another place that has beautiful waterfalls, and that is the Great Lakes region. When I was a little girl, I lived near the Great Lakes, near Lake Ontario, I believe it was. And one day my family and I went for a walk behind the waterfall of Niagara Falls. I was only about 5 years old. I remember I had on a bright yellow rain slicker, and I was with my mom and my dad and my brother and one of my cousins. I hung on tightly to my dad's hand as we walked on a little narrow path that went right behind that immense waterfall. Now, I want you to know, be reassured that we were with a guide that was keeping us safe. And there was like a little railing to keep us from falling into the waterfall. But I've been told that they don't do those walks behind the waterfall anymore because it's pretty dangerous. However, I forever have that memory of being behind that amazing rush of Niagara Falls, flowing forever, endless water, and the rainbows that I was able to see there too. Now, in Native culture, particularly in the area around the Great Lakes, there is a character by the name of Nanabojo. Some people call him Manabojo, but the Ojibwe people, from whom my story comes, call him Nanabojo. Nanabojo has magical powers. Now, he looks like a rabbit, but not any ordinary rabbit. He's a great big tall rabbit, as tall as, well, he's as tall as a maple tree. And he can do all kinds of things. His favorite thing to do, of course, is to trick other people. Now, one day, Nanabojo came out of the cave where he lives that is right at the base of a huge waterfall. And as he came out, he saw Brother's sun shining in the sky above, and he thought to himself, what a beautiful day this is. He took one big leap and he landed in the middle of a meadow. But when he looked around the meadow, he noticed that the flowers, they just didn't have any color. Every single flower in that meadow was white. And he thought to himself, well, that's pretty boring. All the flowers are white in this meadow. I think I'm going to play a trick on Brother Sun and Mother Earth, and I am going to paint these flowers. So quickly, he hopped back into his cave, and when he came out, he had a basket that was filled with little pots of paint, and he jumped into the middle of the meadow. He got himself all ready, and he took a little stick and he began to paint all of the flowers different colors. Some of them were yellow, some of them were purple, blue, some were pink, some were red, some were even varied shades of green. Oh, they were so beautiful. He was sure that Mother Earth and Brother Sun would like this trick and would be pleased. But then all of a sudden, he noticed that something was buzzing all around his head. There was a little bird that was zipping by him, and then another little bird that went zapping by him, and these two birds went darting back and forth across his face. And Nanabozo was getting very annoyed, and finally he said, "Stop, you birds, stop. I'm trying to paint the flowers." But the birds did not stop. They kept buzzing back and forth, bothering Nanabozo, so he could not paint the flowers. And then one of the birds got an idea. That bird flew by those paint pots and stuck his tail into the blue pot. And then he flew all around Nanabozo's head and he spattered blue paint all over the flowers himself. And then the other bird put his tail into the yellow pot and he spattered yellow paint all about the flowers. And now those two birds, they were painting the flowers instead of Nanabozo. And Nanabozo was thinking, but this was supposed to be my trick, not your trick, you birds. Well, Nanabozo didn't know what to think about all of this. He was very, very annoyed. And so he decided he would pick up his basket of paints and he would go home. He picked them up and he started to hop back to his cave. But those birds, they kept coming, taking their tails, dipping them in the pots, flying off, scattering paint all about. And soon they were scattering the different colors of paint all across the waterfall. Nanabozo didn't know what to do. He stuck the paints into the cave and he came back out and he saw something that he had never seen before. There in the waterfall, a great big huge arch of color was glowing right in the midst of the water. There was a red stripe and an orange stripe, a yellow stripe, a green stripe, a blue stripe, and a purple stripe. Nanabozo laughed and he smiled and he said, "Oh, you birds, you have done something that I hadn't even thought about. You have made a beautiful piece of art for all of us to enjoy, but I will name it, I know, I will call it a rainbow." And ever since, from that day to this, if you stand at the base of a waterfall or in the rain, in the beautiful mist, you will see beautiful arches of color. Rainbows, we still call them. And we can thank Nanabozo for trying to paint those flowers in the meadow and bringing out that pot of paint, that basket of paints. But we must thank those little birds, for they are the ones that got the idea to tip their tails into the paint pots and fling paint all about. A story from the Ojibwe people about Nanabozo and the rainbow. I hope you enjoyed that story.
Thank you, VZ.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. So good.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Oh, and I brought flowers from my own meadow, my garden, just to show you all the different colors that are still out there for all of us to enjoy. Thank you to Nanabozo and those birds for painting the flowers and bringing us a rainbow. Yeah.
The flowers are so gorgeous this time of year.
They are.
I just went out last weekend. I went on a hike with a friend of mine, and it was so wonderful. There was purple, there was white, there was orange, there was all the painted colors on the hills. There were few people. There was just the right number of cows. It was exactly the opposite of the last time I went there, where it was freezing. There was no flowers. There was only fog. There was no people. There was so many cows that it was so scary. I left and went home. So I like the season of flowers better. Colleen, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. And I'm a little worried about my internet connection. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Do you have a story for us?
I do. I have a story that I think goes really nicely after Beezy's. So I'm excited.
Let me introduce you a little bit. Colleen is such a fun storyteller, a creative person, and a real gift to our storytelling community. Has been a fantastic co-president over these last couple of months. I'm very pleased to get to work with you and get to know you more. And one of the people who brought storytelling to our community in the first place and has kept it going all these years. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Dana. That's very nice of you to say. And I did want to just take a minute and welcome a participant who joined us, Jillian. So glad you can be with us today. I am excited to share a story that, like Beasley, comes from the Native American tradition. This story is from the Blackfeet Nation, which is a Native American tribe that it lives up in the northern part of Montana, up by Glacier National Park, so right up by the Canadian border. And this story is the story of how Chipmunk got his stripes. And Kai, if Kai is there, I had a question for Kai, but I don't know if he can talk right now. So
what was your question? Here.
Oh, Kai. Okay, there you are. I have a question for Kai. Hey, Kai, can you tell, do you know, have you ever seen a chipmunk?
Yep, I did.
Okay, excellent.
Or a squirrel.
Can you, like a squirrel, exactly. Can you tell me, is a chipmunk a big animal or a small animal?
Big.
It is it big?
Small.
It's big. I think that chipmunks believe that they're big, but to us, chipmunks are kind of small, right? But they seem to have big personalities. And Kai, does a chipmunk have 3 stripes down its side?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so you know what we're
This
talking
squirrel
about.
is big, and he probably thinks he's small, right?
Exactly. Compared to a squirrel, a chipmunk, or compared to a chipmunk, a squirrel is really big. Exactly. Okay, thank you, Kai, for helping us understand a chipmunk a little bit. So a chipmunk is a small animal and it has 3 stripes down the side. And the Blackfeet people say that chipmunk got its stripes this way. So chipmunk and bear, back in the beginning of time, were friends. And they were friends because chipmunk and bear both enjoyed tromping through the forest, bear with his big heavy feet and chipmunk with her little tiny feet. And bear and chipmunk both enjoyed climbing trees. Chipmunk would scurry up the tree very quickly. Bear would lumber up the tree. And both bear and chipmunk enjoyed drinking water out of the clear, cool, flowing stream. Now, bear thought that he was the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest. And to prove it, bear liked to tromp around. He would reach high into the trees and put his claws into the trees and rake them down the sides of the trees, just to prove that bear was the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest. This got pretty annoying after a while, and Chipmunk found herself thinking, Bear, why do you have to go tromping around the forest all the time? And Chipmunk said, Bear, if you were really the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest, you would be able to go to the top of that cliff and push that boulder off the side. But you can't do that, Bear. I don't believe you can do it. Bear said, Chipmunk, I am the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest. I can certainly push that boulder off the cliff. And Bear tromped all the way to the top of the hill with both of his paws. He pushed and he pushed and he pushed until the boulder came tumbling down the side of the hill. Chipmunk turned to Bear and said, okay, Bear, maybe you can push a boulder off of a cliff. But if you were really the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest, you would be able to topple that tree standing right over there. And I don't believe that you're strong enough to topple that tree. Well, Bear, knowing that he was the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest, walked up to that tree, went up on his back legs, planted his paws against the tree, and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed until the tree came falling down. All of the forest vibrated when the tree hit the ground. And Chipmunk, who was vibrating, said, "Okay, Bear, you might be strong enough to topple a tree, but you are not strong enough to prevent the sun from rising over the horizon in the morning. No one is strong enough to do that." Bear said, "Chipmunk, I am the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest. I can certainly stop the sun from rising over the horizon tomorrow morning." So Bear sat down and stared intently at the horizon of the forest. And all night Bear said, "Sun, don't rise. Sun, don't rise. Sun, don't rise." But no matter how fiercely Bear told the sun not to rise, at dawn, a small peak of the sun started to come up over the horizon, and Bear growled with all his strength, "Sun, don't rise!" But the sun continued to rise over the horizon until the light streamed down and hit Bear's face, hit the face of Chipmunk high up in the tree. And Chipmunk, she was laughing. She said, "Bear, you are not the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest. Look at that. You couldn't even stop the sun from rising this morning." Well, before Chipmunk knew it, Bear reached high up into the tree, and Bear grabbed Chipmunk, and he brought Chipmunk down hard, smack on the ground, holding Chipmunk there under Bear's great paw. And Bear said, "Chipmunk, you better say that I am the strongest, most powerful creature in all of the forest, or I am going to eat you for breakfast." Chipmunk was so scared. Chipmunk said, and Bear said, what was that, Chipmunk? I really want to hear I want to hear you say that I'm the strongest, said Chipmunk. Well, Bear really wanted to hear Chipmunk say that he was the strongest, most powerful creature in all the forest. So he lifted his paw just a little bit so that Chipmunk could breathe. And he leaned his ear down, but he lifted his paw just enough that Chipmunk ran lickety-split right out from under his paw, and Chipmunk went running for the closest tree. But before he could make it to the tree, Bear reached out, and with his 3 claws, he just managed to leave 3 stripes down the side of Chipmunk as she went running up the tree. And that is how, to this day, chipmunks have 3 stripes down their side. And this is also a good lesson to us all to remember that it is not kind to tease our friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. I certainly like the lesson. I don't like it when friends tease me. I don't think it's kind to tease your friends either. That reminds me of a story I was listening to from Beezy during the beginning of the pandemic. Beezy was prolific in putting storytelling on the internet live and can be replayed. You can access her stories on her Facebook page on Beezy the Hive, and you can also access them through our Facebook page at the Mother Lode Storytelling Guild's Facebook page. And I think it's so fun to listen to stories while you walk around. So I was picturing Bear and Chipmunk having this epic battle as I walk through the forest, which is where I heard Beezy tell a story. I feel like it was about Turtle's shell. It's important to learn where these things came from, right? The history of the plants and animals in our world. I'm gonna ask Angie to tell your story next, but before we do, maybe we can, take a little break. When we were telling stories together in person, for the last several years, we would be in a coffee shop in downtown Sonora, in an art gallery in Angels Camp, in a coffee shop in Murphy's, California. And a lot of the time we would have a chance to get some snacks and some treats, and we would tell some stories, and then we'd take a break, and we'd, chat with each other a little bit, and then we'd come back and tell some stories some more. So I wonder, does anybody want to share with us, were we at Sonora Joe's, or were we at the Gold Country Coffee Roasters, or were we at Legends? What kind of snack or treat would you like to get? And also, I wonder, what are you looking forward to this season, besides the fruit and the wildflowers?
Can I go first?
Yes.
Thank you. If I were at Gold Country Roasters, I would order a coffee Borgia, which is a delicious mocha with a little bit of orange flavoring in it. And they are creamy and smooth and absolutely delicious. And that would be such a treat. And for me, what I'm looking forward to this season right now, was the other question. On Wednesday, my grandson and I are going to Oakland to see a friend of his from summer camp. We are going to be very careful about all of our COVID restrictions, and we're going to get on the ferry in Oakland and the outdoors, and we're going to take the ferry boat across the bay under the bridge to Pier 41, and then we're going to have a little snack at Pier 41, and then we're going to get back on the boat in the outdoors and go back across the bay and wave to Alcatraz and have a lovely time, and then come home. It's our first adventure since COVID.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound fun?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. The last time I was on the bay, Dana, was when I was attending your wedding virtually. And now I get to be on the bay again, or at least when I saw your wedding pictures, that was it. And now I get to be back on the bay.
It should be wonderful.
That's me. Yes.
Thank you.
You bet.
Kathy, I see you came off mute.
Yeah, I went on the ferry across the bay to go to a Giants game with my mother. It was amazing. That's the first time Mom and I had done anything ever like that. And going across the bay, and she was a major Giants fan. But what the best part was, at the end, Tony Bennett sang the recording of San Francisco. Everybody's walking out and leaving, and I'm thinking, why are they leaving? The view was dark, the lights were on, the city was on, and he is singing San Francisco. We stopped. Wow, it was quite an experience. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Oh, I bet that sounds magical.
Was really full of Giants fans too, and so they're all screaming and yelling on the way there and on the way back. They're really quiet because Giants lost.
So if we were at the coffee shop, what would you be getting right now?
Oh, A frappe, is that the one with the ice in it? Iced coffee? Oh God, that was so good. Yes. Yeah, the frappe.
Tasty. Thank you. Colleen, I see you're off mute. Tell us.
Yeah. So last year, right before COVID in March, Kathy and I were working to set up our first open telling at Gold Country Roasters. And we were so excited to be having storytelling back in Calaveras County. We started long time ago down in Angels Camp. And then like our first open telling was canceled because of COVID. And so I'm really looking forward to being back at Gold Country Roasters. Lisa Schwartz is so supportive of our guild and enjoys storytelling so much. So that's something to look forward to. And if we were there right now, downtown Murphy's, I would just want a cup of black Murphy's blend coffee because I think they're award winning. Their Murphy's blend coffee is delicious. Maybe a little cream, but just a good cup of coffee. And even more than the coffee, I would be excited to be seeing you all face to face and giving hugs. We have such a nice, friendly group. And something I'm looking forward to is that my father and my stepmother are coming to visit for the first time in a year this coming weekend. And my dad had his 70th birthday April of last year, and there was a drive-by happy birthday kind of situation. They're from Southern California. And here a year later, he's going to be able to come and visit me for his 71st birthday. And we're gonna have a cake. And so it's been a full year since I've seen my dad, and I'm just really excited. It's going to be lovely to have them in person, and we are all now vaccinated, so we can be together safely. Really exciting.
That sounds great, Colleen. That sounds great, and I'm with you. I love the coffee. Just a plain black award-winning coffee also sounds good. From frappe to just a hot or cold. Dave, I see that you came off mute.
Well, because everybody was talking about their fairy stories. And then it reminded me on my 60th birthday, which was a while back, a limousine appears in front of my door. And a friend that I went to high school with, he got out and he was in a limo, you know, the little hat and everything. And he opens the door and says, "Come on, let's go." And I get in. Well, this limousine, he had bought some kind of auction or something. They'd been sitting for a long time. And the reality of it is it barely ran. But he had polished it up, you know, as best he could. And we drove to Oakland and at Jack London Square and took the ferry across. And there's some attractions over there on the other side and came back. But that old, barely can make it up the hill limousine. And the thing about limousines is when you're driving on the freeway and the windows are tinted, everybody like unrolls their windows and looks out, who is that, right? Who is driving in that limo? So it's kind of cool. And the project that I'm doing right now is that we're going to start digitizing all the tapes from the local musicians from way back when. And we applied for a grant and we're going to do interviews. And, you know, like Ken Burns did for Country Western, we're going to do a Ken's Burn thing for the Columbia Buskers. And we're going to have an online archive with photographs, posters, the music, interviews. And we're projecting about a 2-hour radio documentary. And I'm pretty excited about that project. And then with me, maybe I have 75 cents and you can get a root beer in that little cooler. And I always grab the root beer at Snow Joe's. and then unplug the cooler because that hum always got in the way when I was recording.
And Dave is you're with KAAD-LP radio, yes?
That's right.
Our local
Our local community radio station. And you can now go to our website and join our newsletter. We actually have a newsletter now. And the newsletter button is right next to the donate button.
So if you miss one and you hit the other, that's okay.
Yeah, either way.
Either way. Angela Heiss is here. She is our next storyteller before we run out of time for today's program. I am very, very excited to be welcoming Angela into our storytelling community. You know, there are not enough words to explain how terrible this last year has been with COVID. Not just individually and personally, not just in our community, but around the world. But there have been many, many wonderful things to happen by the opportunity to go virtual and be as connected with people who are far away as we are with people in our own neighborhood. And Angela is from Mariposa County, which is a neighboring county, but not an easy drive. So we're very happy now that things are online to be able to be more connected with you. Angela has won Story Slam contests in Mariposa County as well as in Tuolumne County. She's been a featured storyteller in the Pacific Northwest, and she's performed nationally as well. So welcome, and I'm gonna now spotlight you. You'll need to come off mute, Angela.
How?
Let me try. There we go.
That?
Perfect.
All right. I'm going back and forth between one of two stories. So I thought I would ask Kai and Eva, would you like to hear a story about, and these are both true stories, about a milkman? Or would you like to hear a story about a boy in my 5th grade who picked his nose?
Which one?
A boy who picked his nose.
I knew it. I knew it. All right. This story is called Jonathan and the Booger, and it is a true story. Now, it was a Friday morning. I was in 5th grade, and I was having an argument with my mother. And I was saying to my mother, Mommy, I won't do it. I don't care what you say. I am not going to hold his hand. Everyone will laugh at me. And my mother said, Angela, I'm not going to make you do anything. But what I know about this boy, what you've told me, he must be so lonely. And we're only talking about one dance, and you might make such a difference. Well, I warn you that this story is a bit gross, but it's universal. Every 5th grade has a Jonathan, and ours was an amazing nose picker, and he didn't even know it. Now, every day after lunch, our teacher, Mrs. Kramer, had us file in 2 lines, and we walk back into the classroom, and we take our seats in our wooden desks, the old desks that had the lid that came up, and they were hooked together in a row with metal runners. And once we were settled, Miss Kramer would go up to the blackboard and she'd turn her back to us. And she would start to put math problems on the blackboard. And we would sit there and we knew what was going to happen because it was always after lunch that Jonathan did what he did best. I thought about this later in life, and I thought maybe it was the act of chewing at lunch that stimulated his nasal secretions, but I'm not sure. Now, on Fridays after math, we went to square dancing, and this was Friday. But Miss Kramer was still up there doing her stuff, and we were all watching Jonathan. And it started to happen. Now, you need to know that everything about Jonathan was long and skinny. He looked like a human stick insect. His feet were long and skinny. His arms were long and skinny. His fingers were long and skinny. And slowly, slowly, he leaned back in his desk chair and he'd get this dreamy look on his face. And then we'd watch that right hand slide slowly, slowly across his chest. And then he would lift up. It looked like a foot-long, skinny index finger. And he'd insert it into one of his nostrils and he'd move it around. We were transfixed. Miss Kramer was still up at the blackboard doing her math. And then as we watched, Jonathan would extract this long, slimy, gray-green booger. And then he would proceed to roll it between his thumb and his forefinger, rolling and rolling until it was a perfect orb. And as he rolled and rolled, the 31 of us were watching him and our eyes were going like this. As we watched that booger roll. And then when it was a perfect gray-green orb, he opened his mouth and he popped it in and he rolled it around and he swallowed. And we all went, we did the throwing up sign. We went yuck. And just about that time, Miss Kramer would turn around and then she had our attention. Now she'd finished the math lesson, and as I said, it was Friday. So Friday, we followed her down as she carried the portable phonograph to the auditorium. And the janitor had already moved all of the chairs in the auditorium, folded them and put them next to the walls. And we stood, boys at one end of the room, girls at the other. And because there were more boys than girls, Miss Kramer always had the girls walk across the room and pick a boy for a partner. Now, as I was standing there, I looked across the room and there was a row of boys. And Jonathan wasn't in that row because Jonathan knew that nobody was going to pick him. Because if you've ever square danced, you know that you have to hold the boy's right hand. And that was a hand. So no self-respecting girl was going to pick Jonathan ever. And then as I looked across, there were two of the cutest boys, Dan Nash and Robbie Boswell, right in the front row. They were really good friends. And Miss Kramer got the record on the phonograph. We were almost ready. And she said, girls, go and pick a partner. So I started to walk across this wooden floor and I was heading towards Robbie and Gan. And then I heard my mother's words in my ear. I heard her say, Angela, you could make such a difference. So I took a breath and I walked right between Robbie and Gan. And I went over to where Jonathan was standing, maybe 10, 20 feet behind the other boys, all by himself, looking down at those long, skinny feet of his. He wasn't even paying any attention. He didn't know I was there. And then I said, Jonathan, and he looked up and he turned red. And I said, Jonathan, would you be my partner and dance with me? And he had the biggest smile you've ever seen. And I reached my left hand out and I took his right hand and we danced and I survived. Now, after elementary school, I lost track of Jonathan. We went to different junior highs. I don't know what happened to him in life. I'd like to think that with his savory palate, he may have become an executive chef or a microbrewer. I don't know. But what I do know is if I'm having a rough day, all I have to do is think back to my 5th grade and Miss Kramer at the blackboard and Jonathan picking his nose, and I smile. Thank you.
That was a very detailed story, Angela.
Gross, Angie, gross.
I know.
How did the children like that?
Loved it.
Very, very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you so much. Thank you to each of our tellers. I want to also say thank you to the Tuolumne County Arts Association. Our Mother Lode Storytelling Guild is an art partner of TCA, which has been a fantastic relationship. We want to say thank you to the Storytelling Association of California, which has provided us with the ability to have this event online on Zoom today. We want to give a shout out to the National Storytelling Network, which we're affiliated with. I'd like to again give you our email, which is motherlodestorytellers@gmail.com. That's how you can contact us in order to get signed up for our listserv. You can check out our brand new, still in the works website at motherlodestorytelling.com. Our next event that our group is planning to be involved with is the Storytelling Association of California genre storytelling event. They are putting on really fun storytelling events once a month, and there's one coming up on Wednesday, April 21st. Richard Haratani from our Storytelling Guild will be there. That's a free event. Donations are deeply appreciated. You can check that out at the Storytelling Association of California's website at StorySAAC. That's StorySAAC.org. We are planning on having another open telling on Saturday, June 5th. So I hope to be able to see each one of you there again. Tell your friends if you would like to tell a story. You're more than welcome to. First come, first serve for the sign up. And later this summer, we are planning to revive our longtime super fun event for adult ears only, for storytelling that is geared towards the adult sensibilities. So stay tuned for that. And thank you again to Angela. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Beezy. Thank you, Kathy. And thank you to each one of you for coming to be here with us today.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dana. Well done.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yay. Bye all. See you another time.